Hello everybody, welcome to the channel. My name is Old Man Hitch, and another year has come and gone, and oh, 2016, what a year you were. But anyway, this is a special time of year where we get to reflect upon and celebrate the year that was, and so this is my top 10 favorite games of 2016, and I'm going to break this down into two parts. So in this video we'll have 10 through 6, and 5 through 1 will come in a second video. A few caveats before we begin. Number 1, if I didn't play it, it's not on the list. I don't have unlimited time, and more importantly, I don't have unlimited money. I buy all my games, and so I have to be a bit choosy. That being said, I've still managed to play a big chunk of what was available, and when I sat down to make this list of everything I've played, it was pretty impressive, and included everything from $3 indie games to full-price AAA hype trains. Secondly, I have only played games on PC in 2016. It might be the first time in my entire life that I haven't spent more than a few minutes playing on a console, so if you're looking for your favorite PlayStation or Xbox exclusives, they're not here. Now, without further ado, let's get into the list. Coming in at number 10 on Old Man Hitch's favorite games of 2016 is Mother Russia Bleeds. It's the first game from French indie developer Le Cartel Studio, and it was published by Devolver Digital. It launched on September 5th, and it's a great throwback to a genre that I really enjoyed growing up, and that was the side-scrolling beat-em-up. I have a lot of great memories playing Double Dragon on my Sega Master System, or Streets of Rage on the old Genesis, and I think you could even throw Golden Axe in this category as well. Gameplay is fairly simple. You pick a character that matches your playstyle, or you can try something different to mix things up, and you fight waves of enemies while you advance through several different levels in a story arc, each one having unique boss fights. It's set in an alternate reality in 1980s Russia where a mafia-produced street drug called Necro has decimated society, and although you're addicted to the drug as well, you can use it to buff and heal, and you're fighting to rid the streets of Necro. The art style is a nice retro pixel style, but they've added layers to give each level a sense of depth and life not present in the older games I've mentioned. The music and sound effects are top-notch, and there's a good amount of variety in the enemies to keep you coming back again for a second replay. Mother Russia Bleeds retails for $14.99, and I think it's worth every penny of that. Coming in at number 9 is Far Cry Primal. It's the latest installment in the Far Cry series. It's developed and published by Ubisoft. Far Cry is normally a FPS set in modern times with guns and vehicles, and it's best known for interesting characters and wacky storylines. But with Primal, they turned back the clock to prehistoric times with clubs and spears, and fans of the past games will still recognize a lot of the core Far Cry mechanics like animal hunting to upgrade your equipment, side quests, gathering and crafting, and clearing out strongholds and outposts to open up the map. Additionally, Primal adds the ability to tame and command animals, and even allows you to ride some of the larger ones, which works nicely and gives you some of the best experiences of the game. I think because of the lack of weapons, Primal wasn't received as well as Far Cry 4, but I personally believe that the lack of extremely long-range weapons like sniper rifles made clearing outposts more challenging and overall more interesting. It certainly made stealth clears harder to achieve, and for me, those were often the most rewarding. So, I mentioned interesting characters and wacky storylines, and unfortunately Primal fell way short of its predecessors. And I think a big part of why that is because they chose to use a made-up language and make you read subtitles the whole game. It gave me a real detached feeling from the story and all the characters. It felt really dull except for maybe Urki and Da. Far Cry Primal retails for $49.99, and I recommend it if you're a fan of the series or you just want to experience an interesting setting that's not normally given a chance in today's modern warfare AAA games. At number 8 is Total War Warhammer, developed by Creative Assembly and published by Sega. They managed to combine two awesome things that seemed like they were a match made in heaven: Total War and the Warhammer universe. I've been a longtime fan of the Total War series, with 800 hours across multiple games. Total War combines 4X grand strategy with real-time battles involving massive player-controlled armies. The level of detail in the battles has always been a major strength, allowing you to zoom in closely and watch individual soldiers fighting for their lives. If you're interested in trying out the series for a cheaper option, I highly recommend Shogun 2. which you can probably pick up for a bargain on a sale. As far as the lore in Total War Warhammer, I'm not the best judge. But I have played quite a bit of Blood Bowl as well as the Warhammer MMO that Mythic Entertainment made in 2008, so I understand the different races and factions involved, and I felt like they did a really nice job of staying true to the universe as far as I knew it. Total War Warhammer might be my favorite of the series, but not because of the Warhammer setting, although I think that aspect is fantastic. It's because they managed to fix some of the old problems with the sieging settlements and castles that previously plagued the earlier games. In previous games, defending settlements with tiny armies against massive assaults was way too easy, even on harder difficulties. They fixed it by giving you only one wall to defend, which seems counterintuitive, but it works because it concentrates your forces into a smaller area. You can't hide your range units on walls while the infantry covers doors and holes. Additionally, they've improved the attacking AI, so it'll hit you with multi-pronged attacks. You'll have giants beating down the doors with orcs and goblins pouring over the walls. It's a lot more challenging. They've also made it so that if your settlement hasn't upgraded to have walls, you don't get to fight in the town itself, which is a huge change to the previous games. You could always use the natural choke points on the streets, and this is perhaps a much bigger nerf to defenders than anything else, and that's a good thing. It's important to note that I'm only talking about defending points with basic militia units, so large armies are still capable of defending quite well. Total War Warhammer is available for $59.99, and that'll only give you the base game, which includes 4 races. And the huge drawback to this series is it's always loaded with a lot of DLC. And unfortunately for Warhammer, this time it's a little pricey. It's already around $65 for all the DLC currently available. A post on the developer's blog mentions that all of the authenticity and the detail that they were striving for was very expensive to make. They claim 4 times more expensive than the available budget, and that was the reason for the expensive DLC. However, the 4 races that come with the base game are all quite good, so I do recommend it if you're still a fan. For number 7, DICE and EA took a much needed deviation from the modern military shooter and chose to set their new Battlefield game in World War I. I've somehow managed to rack up over 150 hours so far, and I've really enjoyed all of it. For one thing, the launch was relatively flawless this time. I happened to be unlucky enough to have bought Battlefield 4 on release for Xbox One, just because I wanted something to play on my shiny new console, and the game wasn't playable on Xbox because of server issues for over a month. I know that PlayStation and PC had similar issues, but Xbox seemed to have it the worst. And because of that, I refused to buy Battlefield Hardline. But other than a DDoS attack on launch day, which wasn't even DICE's fault, Battlefield 1 had a very smooth launch. If you've never played a Battlefield title, I feel bad for you, son. It's a unique and highly entertaining multiplayer experience. And notice I said multiplayer because although there is a single-player section of the game, you can't even call it a campaign this time because it's broken down into short vignettes that, although they're well written and interesting from a story standpoint, come up way short of what I want out of a FPS single-player mode. I'd personally rather pay less and just have access to the multiplayer than have to pay full price for something I don't enjoy and I'm not interested in playing. That being said, the multiplayer is fantastic and has all of my favorite game modes like Rush, Conquest, and Domination, as well as a new spin on Capture the Flag where you fight over a messenger pigeon that you have to release in order to call in artillery on your opposition. And the first team to release 3 pigeons wins. Additionally, they've added a new mode called Operations, which is a combination of Rush and Conquest, where 2 teams engage in a continuous battle across multiple maps. This is by far my favorite game mode, although it certainly feels like defenders win nearly every time. One thing I find refreshing is that they've learned from Battlefield 4 that too much evolution is a bad thing. Some of the maps in that game were ruined by excessive environmental destruction, and Battlefield 1 seems to have struck a nice balance between having walls you can blow holes in and destroying entire sections of the map. Battlefield 1 retails for $59.99 and has a premium season pass for $49.99 that will give you all the new maps, weapons, and game modes that release throughout the year. Number 6 was truly a surprise to me, and it wasn't something that at first glance I thought I would enjoy at all, but Stardew Valley has really turned out to be a special game, and I remember thinking at the time that this was going to be my game of the year. And although I think it's nearly a perfect game, I guess there were 5 better. Anyways, Stardew Valley was developed by Concerned Ape and it was published by Chucklefish. It's a farming simulation role-playing game and a spiritual successor to an old Super NES game called Harvest Moon. Farming is only one option really though, because you could spend all of your time fishing, foraging, mining, or just building friendships with the local villagers. The mines are loaded with monsters to fight, the rivers and oceans are loaded with fish to catch. The game is almost entirely open-ended, as you could build a farm however you want. And you can transition into making wine, beer, artisan cheese, or pickled vegetables, but you'll also have quests to help guide your progression through different seasons. It was released back in February, and it's already had a huge content patch, released for free, which added a choice of 5 different new starting maps, new buildings, quests, love interests, and much, much more. All of that added to a game that was already insanely loaded with content. And I don't think you could go wrong with Stardew Valley for $14.99, and that's a great value for a charming little RPG about farming. I want to thank you all so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful holiday. I'll try to get that top 5 video done as soon as possible. My name is Old Man Hitch, and this has been picks 10 through 6 on my list of favorite games for 2016. I'll see you next time.